All right, Con, this is Matthew 13 and 10. And the disciples came and said unto him, why speakest thou them in parables? He answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but unto them it was not given. Call hello Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach, Wamalak Yahweh Shah, for giving me the spirit and power to do this lesson. Right, I always bring out this precept right here because this is just what it is. Everybody don't understand these parables, and everybody don't understand how these parables are still applied today. In the last days where we are at, this is over 2,500 years ago. But we still apply these parables today. That's how I'm able to break them down, and me and you are able to get understanding of them. Right? This is beautiful. This is a brilliant thing that Yahweh Shah did, and this is why we are to follow Yahweh Shah. Right? He had unmeasurable wisdom. Right? Imagine you talking to a crowd of people, but you actually talking to a crowd of people in the future. That is brilliant. That is beautiful, man. So let's get straight into the lesson, man. Let's go to Matthew chapter 7. All right, so this is Matthew chapter 7 and 24. He says, therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings, and like I said, this is the parable, or I don't think I said it. Well, this is the parable of the two foundations. You see the title anyway. But this is the parable of the two foundations. You have to choose what foundation you set your house on. Right? And I'm pretty sure people heard this parable before, but we're going to go over it anyways. Right? So Matthew 7:24. And the rain, it says, therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine. Right? So that's what it's off the rip. It's saying, therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine. Everybody hears the sayings, but who actually hear them? He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Right? So he says, therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, right? Observe and do, like he told you in Matthew 23 about the Pharisees. He says, observe it, pay close attention to, look into carefully, and do it. This is what Yahweh Shah told us to do. He says, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man. Right? You want to be a wise man? Yahweh Shah is telling you how right here. Right? So let's get into it. He says, which built his house upon a rock. So the house is your vessel, you. Right? You are the house. But he says, build your house upon a rock. Who is that rock? Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. Right? How do we know that? Because Ephesians chapter 2 tell us, Peter told us, right? And then you got plenty of scriptures in Psalms where King David explained how his God is his rock, right? And God goes back to Elohim or Elohia, which means power or powers, right? So just because it says God don't mean it's talking about Yahweh, right? So I got this pulled up. Let me put this up on the etymology.com because I love the etymology, right? And you should use it because it goes back to the origin of words, right? Like I showed this Puerto Rican brother at my job the other day, and he got mad. Now, this is kind of off topic, but he got mad. I showed him. I went to etymology.com, online etymology dictionary. Like it gives you from vulgar Latin, right? It gives you Old English. It gives you where these words originally came from, right? Look, it says rupica from Latin rups, which means rocks, right? So it shows you where these words originally came from, right? In 1793, right? So when we look at the word rock in the etymology.com, it says stone, right? Like chief cornerstone in the Bible, mass of mineral matter. But we know it's not talking about a physical stone. You have to think with a spiritual mind. But it says a stone as a substance, large rocky formation. It says over here, stone, rock, or obelisk, right? So the fact of the matter is a rock and a stone is the same thing. I'm pretty sure that is a no-brainer right there, right? But for the sake of the lesson, we got it anyway. So now let's get a precept. So we understand that stone and rock is the same thing. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 2. So we can show that this is talking. Yahweh Shah was speaking of himself when he said, you building your house on a rock. He was talking about you building yourself up with the teaching and the ways of him, right? Studying him, observing him, and actually doing what he commanded you to do, right? That's why you have laws, which Torah, statutes, and commandments, because you have been commanded to do certain things also. He says, I command you that you love one another. And he showed us how to love our brothers, right? That's why he said, if I had not come and spoken unto them, they would not have been guilty for their sins. But now that I come, you have no excuse on why you sin. No one do. That's because we are supposed to follow Yahushua. And if you're not following Yahushua, and when I say there's no best to your ability, because Yahushua says he know his sheep know him, and they follow him, and he know them. So it's either you following Yahushua or you not. There's no best to your ability. That word gets thrown around, and that words get like drugged through the mud, man. It's either you following him or you not, right? So this is Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 19. It says, now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God, and are built upon the foundation. Remember, this parable is the parable of the two foundations. So it says, and built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, right? Yahushua HaMashiach himself being the chief cornerstone. Yahushua is the first stone to build this spiritual temple, right? He is the first stone to build this spiritual temple. And then if you go to Matthew 16 and 18, he set Peter as the stone to build on top of his, to start this church. Peter is the rock that starts this church. And then he says the apostles and the prophets help build the church, right? So this spiritual church that we have through the Spirit is talking about himself, Peter, and the rest of the apostles and prophets. And it builds up this spiritual church, this spiritual temple. But it says Yahushua being a chief cornerstone, the chief corner rock, right? It says, verse 21, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto a holy temple in the Lord, in whom ye also are builded together for an habitation of God through the Spirit. This is spiritual. So when you think of this stone or rock, you cannot think of it as a literal stone or rock, right? So when we go back to Matthew 7 and 24, therefore whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man. You want to be a wise man or a wise woman? Hear the words of Yahushua Mashiach and follow them, do them. It says, which built his house upon a rock. Yahushua is that rock. It says, and the rain descended, right? So when you go into the etymology for rain, it doesn't give too much because I looked, but we know I'm gonna get a scripture to actually show you what the rain, because we know the rain goes into the hard times, right? Trials, tribulations, right? So when we look right here, it says rain cloud, rain out, rain. I seen something down here. It says something about tears, but it was small. It wasn't like, look, it says probably rather an extension of cats and dogs as proverbial strife and enmity, right? So to rain on someone's parade, right, is raining cats and dogs, meaning you going through something. It says despite intense speculation, right? So I want to get the word I was actually looking for. What it said. It said about tears. Because it's only given, what I seen when I looked, it's only given the physical of it. It's not given the metaphor of it. Everything is physical. But I seen it on her. Cancel because of the rain. Falls and drops in the air. Usually contact. Yeah. All right, right here. So it says transferred, right here, rain, transferred and figurative use It says of other things that fall in showers or drops, blessings or tears or etc, which means etc, which means other things, right? So when we go to, because we have to understand what the rain is talking about. So when we go to Matthew 5, when you hear that it's a commercial, I believe it is, he says, I can see clearly now the rain is gone. That means the hard times has passed, right? So when we look right here in Matthew, or is it John? Oh, yes, Matthew 5 and 45. Matthew 5 and 45, it says that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven, right? It says, for he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good. This is not talking about S-O-N, this is talking about S-U-N, right? But it's not talking about the literal sun. This is talking about the sun as in prosperity, right? You having things in life. This is, I can see the sun. That means I can see it's good times for me, right? It says he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, right? The Lord does whatever he wants to. That's why when you look at certain wicked people, you're like, man, damn, I'm doing what the Lord say. Why is he living good? It's because this the Lord makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good. It says, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. So the rain goes into the hard times, right? He makes it. That's why when, us being in the truth, we still suffering like the ones that's in the world. We still suffering with them because he sendeth his rain on the just and on the unjust. You got to understand that the rain is talking about hard times, trials, tribulations, right? Right, sufferings, right, calamities, false accusations, plots, bereavements, deaths, loss of friends, vexation, right? Vexation when we teaching, all of that. Hey, illnesses. Let me go back to illnesses. It goes back to all of that, right? Those, that's the rain. All these things you have to deal with in your life is the rain. And Job is a perfect example of that. Matter of fact, Job is a perfect example of the rain. Him going through the rain from the beginning of the book all the way to the end. And Job dealt with the rain. Job suffered. But guess what? Job was built on the foundation of Yahweh Shah, the rock. Right now, he didn't know that, but because he dwelt on the Most High, but Yahweh Shah came and manifest himself. Let me say that. So this is Job 13 and 15. This is what Job said. Though he slay me, yet trust in him, but I will maintain my own ways before him. And that's something we all have to do too. Though the Lord, because even Paul said, I die every day. Dying every day is, the trials and tribulation that you go through, it seems like you're dying every day, but it's actually making you to a new person, a better person, right? Going back to Romans chapter 6. Read Romans 6 and he'll tell you, right, that you have to die with Christ. That's not talking about you literally dying with him. It's talking about you killing your old self. And I'm going to tell you straight up, killing your old self is not easy. That is not easy because that nigga always try to come back. That nigga always tries to come back. Whether you man or female, that nigga always tries to come back. Right? So if you build your foundation on that rock, Yahweh Shah's teachings, he said that no one will pluck him. Let me just get it. No one will pluck you out of his hand. Right? I mean, he got you. In fact, I get a better one. Not a better one, but I get a more understanding one that you will understand. Second Corinthians. It's more common. All right, so this is 2 Corinthians 7, 12 and 7. All right, and this is what he said. He says, 12 and 9. There it is. He says, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. This is what you need. This is Yahweh Shah speaking. If you have a Bible, if you go to 2 Corinthians 12 and 9, these are red letters. Yahweh Shah speaking into him. Because remember who came to you, Paul. Yahweh Shah, he says, Saul, why persecutest thou me? Right? Why are you afflicting my church, the ones that believe on me? So he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee. That means my grace is enough for you. For my strength is made perfect in weakness. When you at your weakest point, you lean on Yahweh Shah Hamashiach, which is the rock, right? Your house is built on the teaching and ways of Yahweh Shah, right? So when you at your weakest, Yahweh Shah he can show his power, right? He can show his strength through belief, through faith. It says, most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in mine infirmities, that the power of Hamashiach may rest upon me. And that's something we all have to do, right? It says, therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities. We, I know this sounds crazy, right? But this is something we all have to do. How do you take pleasure in infirmities? How do you take pleasure in going through, you know, the things that we go through? You know what you go through more than anyone. But how do you take pleasure in that? Because you have this builds your faith in Yahweh Shah Mashiach, because he's going to find you a way to escape it, right? He's not just going to pull you out of it. He's going to give you the strength, right? He says his strength is made perfect in weakness. You're going to get through that. He's not going to take you out of nothing, or unless you're not going to grow. You have to go through it all the way. But his strength is made perfect in weakness. You will realize that you have to believe on Yahweh Shah. These are the ways. This is the rock that it's talking about. That house being built on that rock Yahweh Shah gave you, right? The Holy Spirit, and that he sent down in his name, right? That I was sent down in his name. It says, therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, and distresses for Hamashiach's sake. You see that? This is Paul explaining how he's built on that rock. He's built on a rock by saying he take pleasure in all this for Hamashiach's sake. Okay, because you'll look at it like this: Yahweh Shah suffered, I gotta suffer too, because that's what the Bible says. So I'm gonna endure this right here. That's what keeps you going. If that don't keep you going, then you are none of Yahweh Shah's. It says, "For when I am weak, then I am strong." Why? Because it said up here, Yahweh Shah said, "My strength is made perfect in weakness." This is how you keep going. Letting Yahweh Shah be your foundation, your rock, understanding why you're going through what you're going through. Because if you don't, you're gonna fall. Right? Let me get that. Let me see. I gotta get this. To help you understand, right? This should help you understand right here. Check this out. This is Wisdom of Solomon 12 and 1. He says, "For thine incorruptible spirit is in all things. Therefore chastenest thou them by little and little that offend." So the people that offend, he'll chastise, put you through stuff, right? Because you offended him. But it says little and little, right? The Lord said he will chastise you in measure, right? He tells you that in Jeremiah 30 and 11, or it might be 29 and 11. But he says he will judge you in measure, right? He's not going to give you everything that you deserve, because you definitely wouldn't be able to take that. So he judges us in measure. He chastises us in measure, little by little, because we offend him. But it also says, and warnest them by putting them in remembrance wherein they have offended, right? And warning us not to offend him. Or when we did, he's letting us know, like, hey, don't play with me. But it's also for the ones who's on that straight path. He still puts them through stuff so they can keep them in remembrance that you don't want to cross the Most High, man. All right, so it says that leaving their wickedness, they may believe on thee, O Lord. Right? That's how you're going to leave your wickedness, by the things that you're going through. Because what it say in Hebrews 5 and 8? It said that Yahweh Shah learned obedience through the things that he suffered. If you're not learning obedience through the thing that you're suffering, then you are none of Yahweh Shah's. You are none of Abba's or Yahweh Shah's, man. But look, this is John chapter 10 and 25. He says, this is what Yahweh Shah said. Yahweh Shah answered them, "I told you, and ye believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me." So all praise, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh through Yahweh Shah Mashiach. Yahweh sent Yahweh Shah down here to glorify Yahweh, right? But we give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem, which is in the name of Yahweh Shah, man. So he gets part of that glory too. But it says, but ye believe not, because ye are not of my sheep, as I have said unto you. So these Pharisees that he's talking to, they built on sand, right? They not built on the rock. They not built on the teachings and the ways of Yahweh Shah Mashiach. You think these Pharisees about to suffer? They ain't suffering for Yahweh Shah Mashiach. They persecuted the church, right? That's why Yahweh Shah had to come to them and come to Saul and was like, Saul, why are you persecuting me? That means, why are you afflicting my church? Because we read in Ephesians 2 that and the apostles and the prophets, starting with Peter, built up a spiritual temple in the Lord through the Spirit. It said, the last verse, the last couple verses, it says through the Spirit. That's why he said, Paul, why is you persecuting me? But he says, but ye believe not, because ye are not of my sheep, as I have said unto you. That is some scary stuff. Yahweh Shah telling you, you ain't of me, you not my sheep. He says, my people hear my voice. My sheep hear my voice, Salakia, and I know them and they follow me. This is the point I wanted to get. So when we looking at what, let me get it. Let me go back to it and get it. So when we looking at this, man, so when we looking at this, we see that Paul is a part of Yahweh Shah. Look, red letters right there, red letters. So we see when Paul said this, therefore I take pleasure in infirmities and reproaches and necessities and persecutions and distress for Hamashiach's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. He is built on the rock of Yahweh Shah Mashiach, the teaching and the ways. That's why he followed Yahweh Shah and he taught. Let's see what he said in 1 Corinthians 13. But you see, people, they twist up Paul, man. They twist up Paul. But he followed Yahweh Shah Mashiach, man. And we teach Paul the right way. Right? Not according to our own doctrine, our own doctrine. Is it 11? It might be 11. Yeah, I think it's 11. Look what he said. Look what Paul said himself. He says, be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Hamashiach. So he's telling you right here, I follow Hamashiach Yahweh Shah. And Yahweh Shah says, it's either you're going to be built on a rock or you're going to be built on sand. And we see in 2 Corinthians, Paul is telling you, you got to have pleasure in the infirmities that you go through. You got to get let's go. Hey, and sometimes it's not like that, but for the most part, it should be, right? That's why it's good to practice the fruits of the Spirit, man. The scriptures that was written aforetime was written for our learning. But Yahweh Shah said in John 10 and 27, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. So when we look at Paul's, matter of fact, that's another one. When we look at Paul's writings, his letters, which are very necessary, we'll see, read it one more time. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Paul says, be ye followers of me, even as I am of Hamashiach Yahweh Shah. Right, so let's see what Paul went through. Right, this is 2 Corinthians 11, and right, look at this. 23. He says, are they ministers of Hamashiach? Right, you got to ask yourself that. Are you a minister or servant? Minister goes into you serve, right? Are you a servant of Yahweh Shah? He says, I speak as a fool. I am more, in labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prisons more frequent, in deaths oft. These are the things he was going through. Right? He says, of the Jews, 5 times received I. He said 5 times. He received I 40 stripes, save one. Because I believe in Deuteronomy 25. Let me see if I can see it. In Deuteronomy 25, it tells you how many times that you can beat somebody. And I think it's 50 you will seem vile. You are vile when you hit them. You hit them 50 times, one over. Yeah. So look, this is Deuteronomy chapter 25, and this is for edification right here, right? Because it's in the law, right? So he got punished according to the law, but you know how the Pharisees was doing, right? The ones that believed on Hamashiach Yahushua, they looking for reasons to condemn you, man. But this is Deuteronomy 25 and 1, the law. If there be a controversy between man and they judge, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, right? He go into the what they call the Sanhedrin, right? Whether it's I believe it's 42 for the lower judgment, and then you got 72 in the Sanhedrin, which is the big judgment call. But it says that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. So obviously they considered Paul wicked 5 times, but we know Paul wasn't wicked though. It says, and it shall be if the wicked man, and the only reason why he's saying 5, because this is the stuff you gonna go through following your Yahushua HaMashiach, having your foundation built on a rock. These are the things you're gonna go through. And if you're scared of this, if you feel like you can't do it, you should pray more, man. Not only pray, you should actually read these teachings and build your spirit up. That's what you got to do, man. Because this is the only way you're getting to Yahushua. The only way. Now you probably not gonna go through exactly what Paul went through, or Yahushua, but you got your fair share. You got your lot that you have to fulfill, right? And like I said, whether that's calamities, false accusations, and I'm not talking about no small false accusations. I'm talking about people putting a jacket on you that you can't take off. It says you got also plots, bereavements, deaths, loss of friends. You know that's coming, the loss of friends. And this all sucks. You don't want to go through these things, but this is what happens when you follow in Yahushua Mashiach, man. I get told I'm crazy all the time. They think I'm crazy because I teach the truth. And bro, think about it like this. It's not called the truth for no reason, bro. It's called the truth. The Lord put it on the Israelite spirit to call it the truth. You ask people like, is that brother in the truth? Is he in the truth? Bro, this is real. It's called the truth because the Lord is letting everybody, this is the truth. So you got the loss of friend, you got the vexation, especially when we go out and teach, vexations, right? And then you have the illnesses, right? But in the law, Deuteronomy 25 and 2, it says, and it shall be if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face, according to his fault by a certain number. 40 stripes he may give him and not exceed. This is the law. If you hit him more than 40 times, it says, lest he should exceed and beat him above these with many stripes, then thy brother shall seem vile unto thee. Means you hate your brother, man. So they would always hit you 40 times, right? And not 50. If you hit him 50, or hold on, 40 stripes he may give him and not exceed. So you cannot give him over 40. And this is what Paul is telling you, according to the law, he got judged wrongly, unrighteously. This man said in verse 24, 2 Corinthians 11 and 24, he says, of the Jews, 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. Right? Not more than that, though. But 5 times. He says, thrice was I beaten with rods. Well, you know what a rod is. It's a stick. He says, once was I stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. Right? And shipwreck is where your ship either hit a big ass rock or hit another ship and it sinks. And he says, a night and a day I have been in a deep. Imagine being in the ocean with sharks and all kind of unknown creatures for a whole day and night. That's what Paul went through. He says, in journeying often in perils of water, in perils of robbers, in perils by my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen. So he's getting that heat from heathens and his own people. in the perils of the city, in the perils of the wilderness, right? Which dealing with nature, the animals, in perils of the sea, right? Nature, animals, in perils among false brethren, right? In weariness, and painfulness, and watching often, in hunger and thirst, and fasting often, in cold and nakedness. He says, beside those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the church. Who is weak, and I am not weak? Who is offended, and I burn not? So he's explaining to you, no matter what you go through, you have to. He's saying, who is weak, and I am not weak? Who is offended, and I burn not? So he's telling you, bro, I'm a man too. I went through all this stuff, and I'm still a man, but I did it for the church, the care of the church, which starts with Yahweh Shah Mashiach. We just read that in Ephesians 2, the chief cornerstone, and then Peter, and then the rest of the apostles and the prophets. And you, right? You're a lively stone, right? Let me get that. And you being a lively stone, you have to fulfill your lot too, man. This church being persecuted, man. Imagine people throwing stuff at this church, like all that, man. But this is 1 Peter 2:5. Ye also as lively stones. You are a stone. Remember, I just went to the etymology. A stone and a rock is the same thing. Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices. And it tells us that, and Paul told us, so you see how these stories, they all go together. Precept upon precept, line upon line. He says to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Hamashiach Yahushua being a chief cornerstone. It don't say that, but that's what that is. Acceptable to God by Yahushua. Why? Because he's the chief cornerstone. But it says to offer up spiritual sacrifices, right? Look at this. He says spiritual sacrifice. And those spiritual sacrifices is your talents that was given into you. Going back to 1 Corinthians 12, everyone was given talents. And you have to utilize them talents without ceasing. Because if you turn back, bruh, all that stuff you did is not going to be remembered. The Lord don't care. But that's what Peter said. Now let's see what let's have Paul add to it. In Romans 12:1, he says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. This is our service. This is what we're supposed to be doing with our spiritual sacrifices, right? First, making our bodies living sacrifice and using our talents, the things that we use in the world for good, we're supposed to use it in the truth, even better, man. Straight up. That's our job. Now, look at that. Long-winded. Let's go back to Matthew. Boy. May the Lord have mercy on us. So this is Matthew 7:24 again. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man. Right? So you see a lot of it is going to the suffering. You suffering. Right? A wise man is going to suffer. Straight up. A wise man. Don't nobody wants to be bothered with a wise man. You see how they did Yahushua. They're going to do you the same way. If you built on that rock, they're going to do you the same way. All right? It says, which built his house upon a rock, which is Yahushua, and the rain descended. Right? Like I said earlier, the teaching in the ways of Yahushua, but the calamities and the false accusations, right? The loss of friends, the illnesses, all of that. It says, and the floods came. So it's not only that, but the flood as in, let me get this. This flood that we have yet to see, right? That's going to happen again. Now, this happened already in Revelations 12:15, but it's going to happen again. So this is Revelations 12:15. It says, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman. So the serpent is the Roman Empire that is talking about in Revelation chapter 12. And the woman is the nation of Israel. If you read Jeremiah 6:2, he says, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. Right. And then you got Second Ezra, I believe it's chapter believe it's chapter 11, where Israelite, he gave him a vision or a dream about the nation of Israel and a woman who lost her son. But it says that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood, right? So this flood is all, it goes into the trials and tribulations, but it also goes into the things that we're about to suffer from in the future, right? And that's why he tell you, he that endureth into the end, the same shall be saved. If you folding up now, you have to build yourself up. You have to make sure that you build on the rock, the teaching and the ways of Yahweh Shah. That's why these parables are getting explained. That's why I'm going more into the teachings of Yahweh Shah so it can build you up. Lord will. It says, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not. Right? So all these things you go through, Paul tell you, and Paul helps to explain, you're supposed to have pleasure in the infirmities that you go through. That's what this is saying. And the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not. It stood strong, right? And your weakness, Yahweh, he showed forth his strength, right? Which is that rock. For it was founded upon a rock. It was founded upon the teaching and the ways of Yahweh. Like I said, if Yahweh, if you believe in it, if you studying the Gospels and you actually looking at the Gospels, you actually examine it, and you seeing what Yahweh went through, and then you see what you're going through, and if you can't examine that and be like, no, this is what keeps me going, then you probably built on sand. And that's not for everybody, but it's a chance, man, because that's how I look at it, man. When I go through what I go through, I be thinking like, yeah, how I went through this? And the servant is not greater than his Lord. I got to go through this too, no matter what it is. And it's gonna seem strange a little bit, because we going through stuff that, like, Yahweh didn't have a wife, so we'll look at it like, nah, this can't be that, because you don't see that Yahweh had a wife, so you would think it's different, but it's not, man. Job went through it. Let me show you. Job went through it. Let's see what his wife told him. Okay, next chapter. So I can. It might be 1 and 10. It might be 1 and 10. Right here. No, that's not it. Okay, so it is second chapter. All right, let's see. What's that for? Right here. So it says right here, Job 2:7. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. Now you might look at this and be like, this has nothing to do with following Howard Shah, but it does. If you're dealing with something like this, a physical disease on your body, bro, that's still trials and tribulations of following Howard Shah. That's just your lot of it. Ain't nothing, none of this stuff strange, bro. This is all happened before to our forefathers, right? The ones that follow Yahweh Shah Mashiach. Now, Job didn't know specifically that he followed Yahweh Shah, but that's who he was talking to. That's who he was following, right? It says, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his feet unto his crown, right? It says, and he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal. Right. And if you go to Job 7:5, it said that worms and pus came out of his body. So he had it bad. But guess what? He never gave up. We just read that at 13 and 15. He says, though God slay me, I will keep my trust in him, roughly paraphrasing. He says, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, doth thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God and shall not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips. And that's something we have to do too. Retain our integrity, like she was trying to take from him. Right? Well, let's get another one. This is Job 19 and 17. Look at it. He says, my breath is strange to my wife, though I entreated for the children's sake of my own body. So what he's saying, his wife can't stand the smell of his breath. That's what he's saying. My breath is strange to my wife. She don't even want to smell my breath. So he was going through it too, man. And that was part of his suffering, right? And Job was a righteous and perfect man, even though he suffered. That's why I said Job is a perfect example when it comes to suffering. I read Job like 4 times already. Job is a beautiful book. I understand more and more every time I read it too. Right? So look, let me get this. Where are we at? All right, so yeah, let me go back to Matthew. Read that again. Slovakia. All right, so Matthew 7, it says, and the rain descended and the floods came. That's the point that I was on, the floods, right? And I went to Revelations 12 and 15 and showed you that the serpent, which is the Roman Empire, revived, is going to come after us again, and we have to endure until the end, no matter what it is, man. Right? Now let's get another one, because we have to keep this in mind too. Even though Yahweh Shah said enduring to the end, he also said, the scriptures also said this. This is Isaiah 59 and 19. So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood. There we go with that word again, the flood. So this flood is talking about the heathen nations coming in to persecute the Jews, the Israelites, like once before. This is part of following Yahweh Shah too. Bro, it's gonna get real, man. Right now it's like it's the build up, but then you have the climax that we're yet to approach. That we gonna see who really follows Yahweh Shah and who really doesn't. Because Yahweh Shah said this in John 20:10. He says, and 10 and 28, see how these all go together? And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. So this is where we're going to see who really believes in Yahweh Shah Mashiach and who really doesn't. Who really believes in Yahweh, why Yahweh Shah, and who really doesn't. Straight up. So it says in Isaiah 59 and 19, and I got my Bible, it says, when the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against them. The Lord is going to protect his people, man. But if you folding up, you shaking, but the Lord ain't going to defend you. Why do I say that? How can I say that? How can a man like me say that the Lord ain't going to defend you if you get scared? Let's see. I guess not. So like, yeah, I want to just do this. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. And I was just reading this with my wife the other day. That's how this precept came to mind. And that's how precepts come to mind when you read every day. precepts come to mind. They come back to mind. They're useful. They're going to be useful. All that you have to do is read and let the Lord do the rest. But this is Sirach 2. And I'm going to just start at 12. Woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted. Think about it. Faint-hearted. Your heart is your mind. Faint-minded. You scared. For he believeth not. So when you scared, that means because you don't believe. Therefore shall he not be defended. That is straight up. And what else do we need? So going back to Matthew 7 and 26 now, it says, you see how much you can get out of 2 verses. It says, and everyone that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Right now, I don't have many precepts for this because this is kind of self-explanatory once we already built our foundation off the rock. So we know what the opposite is, but I'm gonna get a couple precepts. So the first precept I want to get is James 1. Let's get James. So lock in. Let's get James chapter 1. Right. Hey, and this goes into you can't defeat. You're not built on a rock, and great was the fall. Goes into you can't get past Satan's temptations, man. The flood, the flood of the world's persecution, the world's lust, which they put right in your face on purpose because they represent Satan. They are the physical counterpart of Satan. Think about it. Almost everything on the earth, you have to subscribe. You have to pay for it. You don't have to pay for porn. You can get porn anywhere. Just Google it. That's all you got to do, and it's free. That's not a coincidence. They do that on purpose because they know that that's wrong, and it's easy access to it. That's why the world watches it. That's why the world indulges in it. Straight up, a lot of these women and men that want to stay single is because they have all the porn they need. But James 1 and 12, right? James 1 and 12, it says, blessed is the man that endureth temptation, right? For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. So these are the people they're not enduring temptation, right? The ones that's built on sand, right? But blessed is the man that endureth temptation, right? Now, let's get deeper into it. It says, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempted he any man. So that's plain. We understand that. But it says, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed, convinced, right? And your conscience, you telling your own self, this is, dang, whatever it is, whether it's money, cars, clothes, or hoes, man, you drawn away by your own lust, what you like, what you grew up liking. It says, then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. You have to choose this day who you going to serve, yourself and your own lust, or you going to be built on that rock, man, and follow the teaching in the ways of Yahweh Shah Mashiach, right? Because look, it's what the world do. Yahweh Shah gave you away. He gave the world away, the world of the nation of Israel. He gave them away, but they ignore it, man. And they try to say, they hide behind things like we're all sinners, like we're all this, we're all that. Right? You can't tell me that I'm not going to heaven if I sinner. Are you crazy? Throughout the whole Bible, the Lord tell you what He gonna do with a sinner. But these people don't even read, looking at it. They get so defensive and scared because they know in their conscience, they know the Lord already put it there. Lord, they know, but they think they're gonna be able to say, well, Lord, I thought this was the way, this religion, right? I thought this way was it. And that leads me to my favorite precept. My favorite precept. One of many of my favorite precepts. Right? They think they're going to be able to say they didn't know, right? This is John 15 and 22. This is what Yahushua said. If I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not had sin. But now they have no cloak for their sins. If I wouldn't have came and spoken unto them and gave them these teaching in these ways, these parables that they clearly understand, if I didn't do that, then they would have had a reason why they sinned. Right? They would have stayed in that carnal, obeying the Pharisees and they hypocrisy, and everything would have just been out of course. He says, but now that he came, now they have no cloak for the sin. You don't got no cover. Can't nothing cover your sins up. Because Yahushua said what? Follow me. Right? So you have to choose which foundation you built upon. But going back to 1 Corinthians 10 and 13, he says, there have no temptation taken you, but such as common to man. All men go through these temptations. So it's common to man. So when people say things like, I can't do it, it's too much for me. Bro, somebody already conquered that before. You just got to conquer it now. Now, you can choose to give up, but what it's saying, it's all right here. What it's saying, it's all right. I keep going. Sirach 2 and 14. Woe unto you that have lost patience, and what will ye do when the Lord visits you? Straight up. We already read where it says, woe to the fearful hearts and the faint hands. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. You got to choose, man. He says, there have no temptation taking you but such as common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able. Whatever you are, trials and tribulation, you are going through, whatever temptation that you're going through, whether it's lust, you still smoking, right? Adultery, any of that stuff, man, that you tempted. Remember, I want to make this clear. In James 1, he says you are tempted by your own lust. That's why I mentioned smoking, adultery, and those things. Right? So when the Lord is watching you, he says he will not let you be tempted above that you are able. So the Lord wouldn't allow it if you feel like you couldn't get through it. You can do it. He says, but will with the temptation, he said he's going to see that temptation. He could also make a way to you for you to escape. Why? How? Right? Let me finish it. Temptation also make a way to escape that ye may be able to bear it. And that's what I said earlier. He's not about to just pull you out of it, because then you won't grow. You won't learn nothing. You're not going to learn anything. So you have to deal with that fire. You have to bear that, right? But he's going to get you through it. It means you're not going to give up. Why? Because Yahushua said this, if you really believe in Yahushua. 2 Corinthians 12 and 9, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. When you weak and you can't bear it, that's where his strength comes. That's where you be like, Yahushua went through this, bro. I can do this. You tell yourself that, and you go read. You go read what Yahushua told you. And this book is spiritual. If you're a spiritual person, you understand that this book is spiritual, and it's going to build you up spiritually. You read a couple verses, you're like, hey, man, I got this. What? He says, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Mashiach may rest upon me. Let the power of Yahushua Mashiach rest upon you, man. That's a choice that you can make, man. Right? But guess what? What we read in 1 Corinthians, it says that he'll make a way for you to be able to bear it. Guess what? The world don't want to bear that. That's why they go and sign their nature over. They go and sign their soul over to Esau. Right? Because they don't want to suffer. They don't want to follow Yahushua. They like, man, I'm trying to eat. I'm trying to be rich. But these dummies don't know that they're in captivity because they sinned. The Lord said, if you accept my punishment, if you accept your punishment, let me just get it. And then I'll get one more. Let's get Leviticus 26. He said this in the law. Leviticus 26 and 40. He says, Leviticus 26 and 40. He says, if they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers, with their trespass which they trespass against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I have also walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, Babylon the Great, America. If then their uncircumcised heart be humbled, and then they accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. It is that simple. He says you got to accept the punishment of your iniquity, though. Not get around it and go sign contracts with Esau, and Esau make you rich, but you over there bending over. You doing blood rituals, right? You sacrificing family members. You doing all of this just to fit in this world with Esau, when the Lord told you right here to accept the punishment of your captivity. Now, let me get one more. I believe I got one more. Let me say that. All right. So this is 1 Timothy, and this is how they get around it, right? Because when you look at like Grammys, Oscar awards, you look at all these different things, they really try to give praises to God when they know what they're doing is wrong. They know that, but they try to justify it by saying they want to thank God. That's not, they know deep down in their mind, that's wrong. All right, so let's read it. First Timothy 6, and we're going to start at 5. It says, perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds. That's what these people are that receive those Oscars and Grammys. Bro, there's people in the world that's way better than these people that's getting these Grammys. There's women that can sing way better than Mariah Carey. Way better than all of those. Man, come on, man. We know this. The real talent is still in the hood, man. They pick these people because these people are doing whatever they tell them to do. But it says, in this destitute of the truth, we have to modernize all of this. This stuff is not just some old writings that we don't use no more. No, we use this still today. How? Supposing that gain is godliness. Go look at an Oscar or a BET Awards, anything, and watch them try to give glory to God. Watch. Why? Because supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw thyself. So Paul said, man, stay away from them people. That's what he said. Stay away from them people. He says, but godliness with contempt is great gain, right? Like Proverbs 30. Give me not riches, neither poverty. Give me food convenient for me. But they not happy with that, right? They not happy with the punishment that the Lord gave them, so they try to go around it. God said right here, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be there with content. And if you got food, water, like me, I'm content, bro. Like straight up. I'm pretty sure all my brothers and sisters are too. They content with what they got. We don't have nothing. We live in North Tulsa. That is the worst side of Tulsa, Oklahoma that you can live. The worst place. But we content. We have food and raiment. We're not greedy. And plus, it keeps us humble. Look how these niggas act when they get a lot of money. They flashing money all on their arm and throwing it on the ground, counting it, laying in it. They doing it because they not humble, right? And they think it can't be taken away from them, right? But it says, but they that will be rich fall into temptation. There we go with that word again. And a snare, right? Which is a trap. And into many foolish and hurtful lusts. There we go with that again. Lust. So when they get around the punishment of the Lord, this is what they fall into. Temptation and a snare and many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. Right? They got to die. Perdition. It says men in destruction and perdition. Perdition is destruction. And who are they getting this from? From the son of perdition. Esau is the son of perdition. But it says, for the love of money is the root of all evil. And that's why Esau He offers them that, but he shows them the life to live first. That's why he got niggas on music videos with chains and women, money, cars, clothes, and hoes. Before he give you that money, he's going to show you the life that you got to live. Instead of you pitching out your own life of helping your people, doing this and that and the third. He like, nah, this is the life right here. This is the American dream. And they fall for that shit every time. It says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some covet it after, right, when they see it on TV, they want it. They have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Them niggas get to the top and they still empty, soul empty, man. Soul is empty. But he says, but thou, O man of God, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness. And these are the fruits of the spirit. Fight the good fight of faith. Fuck what the hell who cares? Who cares that nigga? Because we had a brother tell us, he pulled up in a Charger. It was like a lime green Charger. And you probably seen the video before. He was like, y'all need to go get y'all some money. That's y'all problem. Y'all broke. Nigga, we don't care about what you talking about. You think we care? We don't care how we look. We don't care about being broke. We don't care about none of that because we know what we got to receive. We know what's coming for us. We know what the Lord about to give us. He says, for the little things y'all have done, I will greatly reward you. Nigga, we don't care what you talking about. So he says, fight the good fight of faith, lay hold on eternal life, whereunto thou art also called and hast professed a good profession before many witnesses. We don't care what they talking about, man. We do not care. So let me get this to close out with. Close out with this. So look, this is Hebrews chapter 10 and 35. Cast not away, therefore, your confidence, which have great recompense of reward. Why would he tell you to be confident? Because we're going to be at the bottom. We're a spectacle unto the world. If you're an Israelite, man, you are highly hated. You are a spectacle. You are a hate group. You're a cult, right? And the only thing you doing is trying to love your people, trying to show them the way, trying to give them what they lost. So don't cast away your confidence, man. He says, for ye have need of patience, that after ye have done the will of God, ye might receive the promise. We know what the promises is, man. Starting with Yahweh Shah Mashiach, we get the kingdom, the rest. No more sorrow, no more crying, no more poverty, no more none of that shit, man. You live how you want to in righteousness, man. And you still gonna have the mind you have, you still gonna have it. You're not gonna lose nothing. You're still gonna have that mind. You're just not gonna have the wickedness of it. You're not gonna have those wicked ass thoughts. All right, it's gonna be all righteousness, but you still gonna be like, I made it out of Babylon. That's part of your glory too. Or you can die and come back as a child and through one of the brothers' nutsack as a child and don't remember none of it. You choose, man. You gotta choose. Straight up, man. Hey, Lord willing, you was edified, man. Shalom.